Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you the secret to getting that classic rock vocal effect. Before we begin, if you're looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process, then I have a free gift for you today. This is my 7-step mixing checklist. It will guide you through the entire mixing process, step by step, to get you professional, radio-ready mixes without any of the guesswork and without any of the hassle. As is tradition, before we jump into the secret to our classic rock vocal effect here, let me play you the finished mix as it stands. Now I have the vocal harmony muted, so you can really focus in on our lead vocal and the effect that we're using, and then I will solo up our lead vocal so you can hear the vocal and the effect by itself, so you get an idea of the sound that we are going for here. Here is the finished mix as it stands, albeit without the vocal harmony.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll ride home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you. Close.
Now let me solo up our vocal here. I had to dip out of there for a second. I forgot to turn my speakers on this morning, so recording video without being able to hear the sound out here. Here is the soloed vocal with the effects, so you can hear our slap delay in our vocal.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll ride home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you.
So it gives us a little bit of depth, a little bit of tail on our vocal, right? Because it is a delay, but it's giving us that kind of slapback delay, that doubling effect that we like on a lot of our classic rock records that we listen to, right? All we're doing here is we're using a slapback delay. So I have one built into my template here that I pull up when I need it. Of course, this is a Beatles cover. There's that famous John Lennon doubling effect, right? He wasn't using a slapback delay. He was actually doubling himself. But this is the same kind of principle here, right? Adding that slapback delay to get that kind of doubling effect, that little bit of tail, that little bit of depth on our vocal. More recently made famous by, Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. This is that kind of slapback delay effect here. So let me break this down here for you. Here is our analog delay inside of Studio One. This is one of the stock plugins here, the analog delay. We have it set to 100 milliseconds. Usually for me, a slapback delay is sitting anywhere between about 70 milliseconds, 60, 70 milliseconds, upwards to about 120 milliseconds. Anywhere after that, you usually start getting into 16th notes, 8th notes and quarter notes, and any kind of time delays. They usually end up too long after that to be a slapback delay. They're sitting a little bit farther out from the vocal. No feedback here, right? We don't want any repeats. We just want that one slapback. But what we are doing here is we are using the low cut and the high cut filters to narrow up our slapback delay. We don't want any low end and low mids coming in from our slapback delay, right? We don't want it to muddy up our main vocal. And on the other hand, we don't want those crispy highs coming in on our slapback either, right? We don't want to have to de-ess it or deal with S's or T's or the sibilance range coming in on our slapback delay. That's why we're using our low cut and our high cut here. And then, of course, we're at 100% wet here. We're going to talk about this ping pong area in a second here. Let me solo up just the delay so you can hear what our slapback sounds like by itself.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll ride home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you.
Now, the way we're getting that kind of chorusy, doubling sounding effect from just our delay is we're using the ping pong or the width section here on the analog delay. What we're doing is we're setting it to sum instead of off. If we set it to off here, take a listen to what our delay sounds like.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true.
So that's just our normal vocal, right, sent through the filters in our color section. That's all our delay is. It's just delayed 100 milliseconds, but it's just our normal vocal. When we set it to sum here, what we're getting is the delays creating the stereo spectrum to have that kind of ping pong effect, and then we're summing it up the center. So we get that kind of doubling or chorused sounding effect, excuse me. And that's giving us a little bit of that old-timey sound. If this was, a newer song, right? We're doing a Beatles cover here. So we want that kind of old-timey effect. That's why we're using the sum here. If it was a newer sounding song, right, if we were going for that Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl kind of classic rock slapback delay, I would probably have this set to off, and I would use this drive here. One more time, take a listen. I'll go from off to sum, and I'll kick the drive in a little bit too so you can hear what it sounds like if we kick some distortion on our slapback delay here. So we'll start with the sum on, we'll go to off, and I'll add a little bit of drive.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll write home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you.
So by cranking up the drive there, we get a little bit more of that aggression that's more characteristic of, the Dave Grohl Foo Fighters sort of sound, where it's that more aggressive in-your-face slapback delay that's pulled up with your vocal there. Something to keep in mind if you're going to go this route of putting the drive all the way up, you really want to have your high cut in place here, or your low pass filter, to make sure that kind of 4K, 5K area doesn't get harsh and doesn't get brittle. You don't want this thing to get, a little bit harsh for your ears. That's something that'll turn your listeners off there. What we'll do now is I'll put this in with our vocal so you can hear what it sounded like. It's still cranked a little bit, and I'm going to go a little bit back towards, well, not a little bit back, I'm going to go all the way back to where we started, right? I'll pull the drive off, and I'll go back towards our sum, so we have that chorus kind of sounding slapback delay, more old-timey. And then I'm going to pull it all the way down and ease it back in so you can hear how we're getting the sound that we end up with here.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll write home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you.
Now, before we talk about balance, I know I said I was going to pull it back. I do want to mention this EQ that I have on the end. Also, you notice there when we have it off, when we're not using the sum, it's a little bit thicker of a slapback delay. Probably have to take care of that with our EQ here if I was going to leave it like that. But I do have an EQ on the end regardless to pull out a little bit more of the low-mid area. I'm going to solo up our delay here and turn on and off this EQ. I want you to take a listen. Listen to how our delay gets a little bit too low midi or a little bit too muddy sounding without this EQ in. And we don't want to add that muddy sort of sound, that low mid sort of weight to our vocal. We want to keep it clean. We want to keep it mid-range focused just so we're hearing the effect from our delay. So we'll start with, and then I'm going to take this out and take a listen to how our delay changes.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll write home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you.
Without this EQ in, our delay gets really heavy sounding, really bulky sounding in the low mid area, and that's not what we want to add. We don't want to add any of that bulkiness to our lead vocal. This is something to keep in mind when you're adding effects to your lead vocals. If you add an effect in and then all of a sudden your vocal's too, low mid heavy, don't go attacking the low mid on your lead vocal. That was fine before you added your effect. Go and attack the low mid area on the actual effect itself, so on your delay or on your reverb. And of course we have a high pass filter here up at about 140, 150 to wipe off all that low end. We don't need that on our delay. Now I'm going to pull this all the way down, and I'm going to ease it in with just our vocal first, and then we'll kick it back into the track so you can hear the finished sound that we ended up with. I'll go a little bit too far too, so you can hear how our delay, how our effect changes, and how our vocal changes at different levels for this slapback delay.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll write home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm...
So right about there is where I'm digging it. It's a nice effect without adding, too much of that slapback, too much tail to our vocal, or too much effect to it. It adds a nice amount of depth, a nice amount of tail to our vocal, and it gives it that sort of, old-timey doubling Beatles sort of effect without actually doubling up our lead vocal. Now I'll put it back into the finished track here, and you can hear one more time our slapback delay on our lead vocal inside the finished mix.
Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember, I'll always be true. And then while I'm away, I'll write home every day, and I'll send all my loving to you.
I hope that was helpful for you all. If you want to take your mixes to the next level, if you want to hone your workflow, then download my free 7-step mixing checklist. You can download it using the link in the description. It will take you through the entire mixing process step by step to get you more professional sounding mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.